show what we have not seen from them at the end of Part 2 of the regular season.
Okay, Battleground. Tempest banning BlossoM's favorite Spider Queen, and BlossoM banning Sky Temple. Interesting. We're going to game number 1, Infernal Shrines. A baseline information for you guys. Patch 31.3. We're still at the same patch of Phoenix nerf, with some Medivh nerf also coming in. And still, Zero Tool's VP is banned, so I don't think we're going to see that Zero Tool in play.
Yeah, I don't think
Good
so.
has been an amazing player. Back when he was in Mighty, he was an amazing Zero Tool player along with Wiz. So that's one hero off their hero pool.
That is true. It's going to hurt. Jigglypuff, I got to ask you a question, though.
What is it?
You and I have been talking about this a little bit before. Do you think Tempest will run Medivh today?
That's the thing. Do you ban Medivh or Garrosh? That's the question that I wanted to ask. And they will start off with banning Garrosh instead, which will basically mean Tempest will have to respond with their own pick. If they're ready for that Medivh, they can lock it in. If they're not, they have to let that go.
I think this is such a smart ban by Tempest if they want to run the Medivh. So we saw such domination yesterday on the Garrosh pick. I'm leaning towards not seeing Medivh by Tempest. I don't think they will run it. They haven't shown any proclivity to run it.
Never.
Never a single
Never
game.
this year.
And so, do you change it up now in your most important match of the year thus far? I don't think so. There's not enough time between their last series against BlossoM to make that change and learn Medivh. It's a hero that requires massive finesse. Look at that. Hanzo and Malfurion tied in for first here.
There are lots of... I would say there are lots of reasons. First of all, roster, I think, is a big reason. If they run a Medivh, their DPS lineup becomes a little bit funky in a way. They can't really, of course, have a good for solo lane, but Lockdown needs to be the flex at the same time. So their roster does not really fit as a Medivh, and this is what I'm saying. They let that Medivh through. Insta pickup by BlossoM with Sonya.
And this is why the Garrosh ban is a little bit puzzling if they weren't going to take the Medivh. Because now they have to deal with this insane combo. Probably going to have to draw out a Diablo ban. This is Infernal Shrines after all, so you leave Gondar to the Diablo, you're going to have a bad time. So not only do they control this early part of the draft with top-tier heroes that they have the coordination to utilize, but they've already stolen Tempest's second ban. So they're in a massive lead here in terms of the draft right now. Tempest pulling out Malfurion with a Genji, so not going to be trying to go all in on Dragon Blades, not going to be running the Uther. And they will take the early Anubarak here.
So they want to go for the tank choke. Taking away Anubarak, basically forcing Gondar to play ETC or maybe a Muradin. I'm guessing Diablo ban, as you mentioned, will come out very likely, close to 100% from Tempest.
This was a style that worked well against Gondar in the past, but his hero pool is much larger now.
There's also Tyrael, ETC, Muradin. A lot fitting for the map.
It's a standard style against any team to try to choke out the tanks in a draft like this, and it used to be very strong against Gondar. It was very strong against Judy, as we saw throughout the 2018 season, but Gondar's hero pool is larger now. He's played 8 heroes in total now, whereas before he had played 3. So in part 2, he really stepped it up. See the Hanzo removal here, so no double Shimada. This should be a Diablo ban, and even though it's the right ban, it feels like BlossoM's already in control as to every move, every step that Tempest is going to take.
Because they're not the old BlossoM anymore, and they have a lot more tank hero pools. So I think they're trying to move away from that and ban the support instead, which I like it, but I think it's still better to just ban that Diablo. It's an easy one. Yes, there we go.
It's a strong ban. It's just that now they have the pick of the litter as to what heroes they can run. Obviously, Stukov is very strong against Anubarak because you know where his burrow charge is going to finish, you know where he's going to land, and you can lock him in and kill him in those moments. You can also prevent Genji's escapes if you place the silence well. So a lot of things that Stukov ruins against very heavy dive comps like what Tempest is running so far. The sad part is if they banned the Stukov, though, then they get Diablo and they get Rhaegar. And Rhaegar also works very well with this composition. In fact, BlossoM may even opt for the Rhaegar for better wave clear, because they have Sonya, who works so well with the Rhaegar, and Diablo would have been fantastic with the Rhaegar. I think the Diablo pick is smart, but it just means that BlossoM already predicted these moves long ago, and they have the whole pick of the roster now, outside of tanks, of course, for their DPS here.
Because Diablo works so well, you can charge in and provide all the CC, and there is that Medivh Portal. If you're not familiar with that combo, also same with Sonya, you charge in with the spear, and then you just run out, but instead, because Diablo was banned, Gondar will be playing on that ETC tonight.
Okay, ETC from him with the Tracer. So Tracer Medivh, we have our DPS combo. The support will be a flex pick here for Nasong. He's got the largest support pool of any player in Korea. So he's going to have the pick of whatever he wants to support against the second DPS that comes out here, whatever ends up making the most sense. And the Tracer pick with ETC and Medivh means this comp in the early game is terrifying, and we're going to have to see who can play a very passive Anub'arak, or he will be killed in the early game repeatedly over and over again. They're going to have to stay away at level 1. They're going to have to run away, and in fact, they may be invaded in camp, so they have to be very defensive.
And also due to having the confidence to pick Tracer against the Genji, need some experience, and also that because they have a lot of saving tools, like the Power Slide, Force of Will, of course, not just the portal. After 10, they can do tons of damage with some CC combo. With the APOC ley line, that's always a good tool. Oh, with the APOC band, of course, it's just going to be the Mosh Pit instead.
Finally, we get to see some Tempest Phoenix here. It's going to be their DPS choice, along with the Genji, so a better all-rounded composition here. Very tanky top laner. So the Malfurion pick gets a lot of value here. This is definitely going to be a Tranquility, you have to imagine. All the slow-paced DPS. BlossoM will struggle in the late game to get kills because they don't have anything but burst damage with Tracer's Pulse Bomb. That's the only burst they have. Everything else is slow damage against Malfurion.
Do you think we need that extra tool of Silence or extra damage of Rehgar? Against the Phoenix, I think Silence works better. But in terms of picking up kills, of course, Rehgar.
Yeah, you know, it's a tough call. I think that with the comp they have, Rehgar is better because he gives you the extra little amount of damage you need to control the early game. His bite, his ability to fight and roam in the early game with Wolf Run, which I think he absolutely should take, given their setup, is going to allow them to get more picks with the ETC, the Pulse Bomb coming through, the portals coming up. Nasong having that extra damage, I think, is going to be what turns this more than Silence later on in team fights. Sure, the sustainability war is going to go in favor of Tempest because they have Malfurion, but it's that Stukov, healing that you could try to compete with that. You could have that extra, Silence as well, but instead they want to have burst healing for Sonya. That's their trump card in the long fight, and they want to have the ability to control the early game. They're going all in on getting level 10 first, winning the first shrine fights. That is what they need to do with this draft.
That's it. And we're in the game. Infernal Shrines game number 1. BlossoM Dave came all the way from the beginning. They were actually very low in standings at the very beginning few weeks. And then ever since they got some touches, they were the ones playing Medivh even before the rework. And they were winning. Korea having around 61%, 61.676% win rate on Medivh. So pretty high. Oh, also Europe, Zealots using Medivh a lot, and they're going straight through that playoff right now.
Crushing it. He's the highest win rate specialist at the moment, above Abathur. Yes, it's at 47.
Well, except for those two.
Yeah,
well,
we don't count the one game played once. But, yeah. So, let's take a look at how this early game goes. Right now, Tempest actually winning the wave clear here, and Phoenix is a terrifying level 1 hero to fight against. He does a lot of damage, he has a lot of slows. He's going for the Q build here, which is... There's been kind of mixed builds. We're seeing mostly the Mage Phoenix this week, but it was auto attacks previously.
This is after the nerf, so
yep.
Plasma Cutter build coming out.
And, so far, because Phoenix bullied a little bit safely there and BlossoM wasn't able to get in a position to do any CCs, they're actually winning this early game. Follow-up route here, follow-up burrow charge. Nasong is the target, blown up here by Dami, gets out there after the dash reset.
So Tempest does have a very good theme against BlossoM. It is to sustain. With taking damage, let's not be bursted by what they're trying to do, the Rehgar, the Pulse Bomb that may come in. Let's sustain out with some healing. We have escapes on our own. Genji, Phoenix, the DPS most likely will have their own escapes also. So let's sustain out, go for the long time, and take the advantage, I think. Take the advantage by taking the objectives. That's what Tempest is thinking in this game.
Yeah, the camp that Tempest just took there is now able to be taken because they got that kill, and this should not be you know, on paper, what BlossoM should allow to be happening. They should not be getting picked. They should not be the one dropping kills. They're the ones that have the more aggressive comp in terms of CC, the burst damage coming through from Rhaegar as well. But they're just playing a very defensive matchup right now, and they ended up losing a member under Cannon Tower. Gives Tempest the free opportunity to take that camp without fear of invade. And already this feels like a massive win for Tempest because they have the better late game composition and they're controlling the early game.
Can you really lock in that Phoenix with just the power slide right now? Not even the damage. You can actually dodge the pulse bomb if you warp at the right time. And I'm pretty sure they have been playing more than enough to do that every single time. I think it's totally possible.
Yeah.
So without that Stukov, they went for the Rhaegar. Maybe regretting that later on. Let's see if the CC will connect. Or the damage will be enough to actually get the kill before those escapes.
Yeah, that's something that like let's put this like put a bookmark on that and review it later, because I think that is something that we can definitely come back and discuss. Camp control still heavily in favor of Tempest right now. They're going to get this camp real quick, then head down.
It's partially because they lost the Rhaegar at the beginning.
Yep.
And the Rhaegar is a very good camp. So even can solo camp early on. But because he had to come back from the hall, they lost that initial timing. So the first shrine time.
So better timing for the top camp for Tempest, but they do rotate down slower because they did wait for that. That means BlossoM has first control here. So many stacks coming through here for Modern Life on his Q. He's just blasting them here as they're all choked up. Do you need to be careful about being this aggressive? He is going in deep. Great damage reduction there onto Gondar.
Gondar blocking that jet propulsion. Saving their back line. Kami strikes in to get some damage onto Tutu.
They've lost control of the shrine, and they're going to have to back off. They don't have the sustainability with the Rhaegar pick. And Stukov, you know, we talked about the silence being a big factor, but his sustainability in moments like this would be sorely missed. They just have to tap the hearth. Oh, look at that root. Everyone is rooted. Everyone is stunned. They do get out. But that is easily the end of this shrine phase, and Tempest has full control of the early game now.
You see the positioning of Hyde. He knew that they were coming in after tapping into the healing fountain, and he was already into the backline, ready for the entangling root. They came into the portal right as it spawned, but he was ready. They were all rooted right there.
Yeah, and then stunned.
Once
Look at this again, one more time. This portal is being very well countered here.
Lockdown, focused.
He's stuck, and that's the power of the CC on the side of BlossoM. It's their first kill at 4.5 minutes. They should have been looking for picks like this earlier, but they finally find one moment, one crack in Tempest's armor. Tempest is playing so defensively thus far, getting the defensive picks in the defensive CCs, the defensive roots on the portals. But when they go aggressive this time, BlossoM is there for the CC punish. Great play by Gondar.
And Phoenix ate too much nacho and cheese there, as he just got stuck with some CC. I think he had the warp, but never really got the chance to use it from the CC, and the damage was burst, so even if he made an escape, maybe he was going to die regardless.
Yeah.
In that case.
Too much nacho cheese, no Mountain Dew to wash it down.
I know that's your favorite combo, Bull.
Yeah, that's why I get the PC bong, man. That's me. Me and Diva. We understand each other. I wish Diva would be meta in HOTS again. Well, I say again, that was never a thing. Roll20 might say otherwise.
Mountain Dew in 2018.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and apparently like in 3018 as well, when Diva's, you know, StarCraft champion. Oh wait, that was retcon. Let's not talk about Diva. She doesn't have missiles in this game. She's like not a StarCraft pro gamer anymore. She just likes Doritos and Mountain Dew, but we can't call it that. It's Nano Cola. You know, let's just let that go for now. Maybe Diva will be, you know, meta once again later on. Not this year probably, but maybe one day.
Yeah, Tempest having a pretty bad nightmare against that Diva, especially in the global scene. And back to the game. BlossoM with that kill did ease up the pressure in the lane, but that was basically it because they were a little bit slower into the camp timing, as you mentioned, as you called out at the beginning. They just got that done, and because they suffer in the wave clear compared to what Tempest has, they will actually lose the macro again, even if they got the kill on the Phoenix.
Yeah. And this is level 10 first for Tempest. This is the opposite of what BlossoM was looking for has occurred. They've lost control of the early game, which means that they're never able to snowball. They're not going to get the early lead on camps to control the map like you were talking about with the Rhaegar pick. The Rhaegar pick just ends up being pretty useless here. It couldn't give them sustainability to recontrol the shrine. And unfortunately, it's just not done any damage. It's not gotten them any kills minus that Phoenix pick like you were talking about. And a 1-1 scoreline at nearly 7 minutes into the game is not what BlossoM was looking for. And here's the next shrine. They don't have 10 to contest it. Tracer is rushing bottom as they lose the healing fountain here. Tracer's rushing bottom to try to get those minion waves cleared so they can actually contest with 10. Look at Good scouting the camp. Such a great play here from the tanky top laner. Goes over, makes sure that Sonya is not soloing that camp. So that could set them up for an invade.
Yeah, and spotting Sonya actually gives them a very nice info as BlossoM is just waiting for that 10 level mark. Hyde is actually holding on to Tranquility. Seems like an okay one because they're fighting on the shrine, but when Burst comes out, may not really too much of a help. So Twilight Dream, not too bad against the vibe.
It's certainly great against Tracer, and if he could just stand on top of the portal and use it, it can be effective. That's what they're going to go for here. They've already won the sustain war with the Rhaegar pick, so they don't need that Tranquility to win out in healing. As long as they can survive through the Pulse Bomb, they are golden. Here comes Gondar, setting up for a potential mosh pit here. Lockdown is the target. Silence comes through, but it's too late. They are going to trade this back. Ancestral connects onto Wiz. Dragon Blade here doing what he can, but it's too much tankiness here. Gondar is not going to go down. He should be able to walk out. Medivh right on top of him can drop down that shielding. But the trade is better here for Tempest, and another root connects with Wiz. Great deflection there from Dami. He survives.
1 DPS down, but in terms of damage and sustain, I think Sonya's so powerful right now.
There's a mosh! And there's that Rhaegar damage coming through.
Okay, Phoenix is back now, but Genji's gone, so Tempest lacking that damage. They have the sustain, but Blaze will not do as much as Sonya does.
They still grab the Arcane Punisher though, and BlossoM needs to get out of
from
here.
The side, and the Hyde is locked in from the power slide. Dudu does not have the Pulse Bomb yet.
Salvo coming through. Wiz is going to get blown up. This is a huge mistake from BlossoM. They stayed way too long, and they will be punished. They may be wiped. That portal barely saves Dudu, and they will get out here. The Arcane Punisher spawning means that they cannot take this fight. And with Tempest, with Lockdown returning to the fight with that Purification Salvo, it was a bad time for Tempest. Now they're going to lose more than just this fort. They're going to lose a keep wall. This is an Arcane Punisher.
Oh yeah, they've been waiting for that Medivh portal moment, and once they saw that portal going to the back line, Gondar just went in with the power slide locked in. Hyde tried to catch the support, but we're still only 8 minutes in, 9 minutes in. They come back so quickly, and Phoenix having that warp came in so quickly into the team fight.
If they had just backed off, allowed the Punisher to be taken, and then take a defensive stance with no members down, they would have had a much better shot. I understand the idea to re-engage because they don't have range damage, like, at all. So the Punishers are always going to be so powerful for Tempest against them because they have no real ability to shut that down. Only Medivh's Q, which has to hit heroes to get its cooldown reduction, so basically not damage at all. You might as well be firing spitballs at the Punishers. So BlossoM decided to re-engage, but I think playing it defensively there and at least taking a 5v5 proper fight could have been better. Now they're just getting sieged down. Look at this. Tempest could just walk up and damage this fort because they're not afraid of any range damage. Sonya was shown in the top lane. Now that she's missing, they're going to retreat, but they get so much free damage here. Tempest just taking their 13 advantage and shoving it, into BlossoM's forts. Really just saying, look, what are you going to do? You can't fight us. We're going to tear this down. We have good range damage. You do not. And the Phoenix pick is really working out for Tempest a lot right now.
We saw a lot of moments, BlossoM playing with fire, but I don't think they should be playing with fire tonight. They should be having a strong heart, but they should keep their brain cold and making cold decisions all the time. They were way too excited. Dudu almost got the Pulse Bomb. I believe they were having some shot calling close to Dudu saying, I almost have a Pulse Bomb, we can get this. But Phoenix just came in from the side. They were not really looking at the minimap.
They've got to be better on track of that. I just feel like this comp from BlossoM was supposed to get picks, and Tempest did not allow that. They played so safe in the early game. And that's why the Rhaegar pick comes through. You can see the solo mosh that we saw in that Shrine fight come through from Gondar, and that allows that big burst to come through on the single target. But in the longer fight against Malfurion healing, it's so difficult. Look, this portal is looking for a pick. Sign gets away. Let's avoid this. And Tempest is fine to, just retreat. And so far, we've been seeing Sign on this Nubrock totally avoid, any sort of damage while also checking. We've been seeing Good as well, checking nonstop. Where is BlossoM? Where's the Raven? Where are they looking to set up? And if you know that every time, this Medivh pick doesn't do as much for you when you're running the Tracer. They didn't have the Diablo, so the CC follow-up there from range is not quite as strong as it could be.
Yeah, Sign has been just tanking, body blocking the front line just in case a Phoenix gets caught. That's his main role. And last time Cocoon was on Sonya to catch the escape from the shrine. Let's see where the Cocoon goes this time. I think even on ETC could actually be an okay one. When they come into the portal, they can actually trap down ETC, and once they're lost right after the entangling route, they will be just having ETC after the portal expires. That could be one way of using the Cocoon.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool ways that you can set this up as Tempest, but the overarching theme is they're playing safe. You know, they're playing around this. And the new question I have for this series is, will we see BlossoM continue to run Medivh with comps like this against Tempest? Tempest never played Medivh before, but maybe that's because they've realized how to play around it better first, and they think that it's, you know, somewhat cheesy, somewhat all-in to play this. And in this case, it looks like it, because BlossoM is just unable to find anything. They're rushing to the top lane to try to get that top fort down to try to catch up in experience, but they're going to give this up. And look at how much damage Tempest is doing counter-wise here. This is going to go straight to the keep wall, which is already being damaged right now. BlossoM heads home. They got the fort, but they don't come home with 16. Medivh's trying to soak mid. But look, one cannon tower already down. Wall's heavily damaged. This is very likely going to be a keep, no matter what BlossoM wants to do, because they have no range damage to contest, and they can't dive. They can't commit to a fight now.
They can't dive. If they are rooted, and on top of that, Punisher's stun will be coming right on top. And they'll be the one in danger if they go into that portal, so they can't make an engage yet. Just have to safely poke it down. Gondor's going to take initial damage with the Force of Will. Protection comes in, but takes way too much damage, gets out with the portal. Sabo will catch only 3 members.
Yeah, no slow there on the Dudu, so he's totally fine. But this is going to be a dead keep, and they need to collapse. They need to engage now. As soon as that keep goes down, don't think they can.
They can actually go in a little bit more. They still have the bunker. Lots of protection too. There's the bunker protecting them so far. Gondor takes some damage. Punisher already onto the core. Chipping it down.
This fight, big stuns here. The circle of protection comes through. There's the silence bulb though. The Dragon Blade comes out right after the silence. No one can lock Dami down. Cocoon's up as well. Modern Life gets his quest complete at 14 minutes. He survives, but I don't know if this core will. Lockdown gets picked here, and they are going to shut down this push. Very close call here for BlossoM. But Sign and his buddies are going to have to get out now. They're going to have to leave. Total control of the map now given with this, the keep down with the catapults in the bot lane. BlossoM just can't find angles to engage. They can't find any way to set up these fights. Tempest is shutting them down so hard that Twilight Dream ended up being the perfect choice. The roots have been placed well. The bunker is a counter to all the burst. What do you do as BlossoM? You're kind of, it feels like you're always just out of reach of what you're trying to accomplish. You're out of range or out of reach.
They don't have a t-shirt, they don't have a sanctification, but bunker is just enough for them to actually be saved. And they do have to sustain. The Twilight Dream, right when the Circle of Protection expired, was insanely done. Great job by Hyde in that team fight. They ended up losing Phoenix, but still a great push. Didn't really get any damage to the core, but still they maintained the lead big time, and they controlled the map basically. They can just continue to do that to the top lane later on and push it to 20 and then finish the game. They have a lot of options right now. BlossoM still a long way to go to chase that up.
Well, they have control over this zone of the map right now. They're going to push this lane so the catapult pressure is relieved. And there's a small possibility they are able to get 20 first, but it's pretty unlikely. It's pretty likely that they're going to be about a level behind when that happens, even with the wall destroyed here. Genji's split pushing top, so that means that they're going to get this fort down. That's going to put, well, eventually they're going to get that fort down, especially because BlossoM is not dealing with it. It should happen fairly soon. BlossoM is just trying to trade up here right now and maybe take a 5v4 fight while Genji's split pushing. Mid wall is going to go down. Dami is totally safe because he's Genji, and he's just going to hearth out. There's no way they can punish him.
I think once again, what's hurting BlossoM right now is that Tracer pick. Not really finding any kill. It's basically impossible to find the kill. Onto Genji, that's pretty hard. Anyone can get into the bunker. Onto Nubar, I guess the only one you could actually put it on would be Phoenix, but can it still warp out? There's the ice block. Like, who do you have to kill? I don't think you can land on that pulse bomb until you have every CC out there and when the bunker expires, you actually wait for that time, but you are never winning the team fight. It's to begin with. So Tracer not really finding any target, not getting any value in this game.
Yeah, you really need to have a follow-up spear to lock down the target for just long enough to prevent the ice block. You need to kill before you can ice block with the double stun, or you need to mosh like we saw earlier from Gondar, where you mosh that target so they can't use their escape ability. Oh man, another defensive portal here. Wiz has to pop his heroic early. This is just a disaster.
Tempest hit 20. Do you really engage?
They might just have to, but look at the bot push. This is a lose, 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 lose situation for BlossoM. There's like so many things going on, and no matter what they do, it's a loss for them. They have to send Sonya bot to deal with the push. They're trying to at least contest on the edge of the shrine while soaking for 20, while the top push goes down to Phoenix, who's able to easily take it and then come back in here. BlossoM has no wall for this mid keep. Worst case scenario with 20 here, Tempest just takes this, takes a second keep. If BlossoM makes a mistake, they win the game. So BlossoM now has to play perfectly against another Arcane Punisher. And if they make one mistake, the game is over. And even if they don't, they're going to be 2 keeps down before they have 20.
BlossoM can still make a mistake, but still it will be very likely a keep down.
As long as Tempest plays, you know, safe here, this may just be the end of this first game. Gondar ports away. Portal on cooldown now. They are going to bait this Punisher into 2 keeps now in the middle here.
They have the rewind. Lockdown now has another way of saving himself. There's Warp. Actually gets damaged by the pulse bomb.
Leyline buys some time here while they still trying to chunk down this Punisher, but he's still very healthy. Gondar, nice dash away there. Nice power slide away.
The thing is, Gondar has to come in though. He does have the mosh pit, but he is very low every single time he tries. Wiz is the only one taking the damage.
Tracer's cocoon, so that's so much damage down. Gondar nearly killed by the Punisher here. Nasong just again trying to buy as much time as he can. Twilight Dream comes in. Target there with the isolation, or sorry, not isolation, with the silence. Onto Tracer. She goes down, and the core, I think, is going to go with her. Gondar cannot power slide in, as you say. That's going to be the end of game 1. Tempest crushing it. 7 kills to 4 here in a 19-minute game. No range damage and no control of the early game for BlossoM. You lose the early game of this comp, you are not going to have a late game. They lost every Punisher and they could not deal with them without range damage. Perfectly called by you when Gondar went in for the power slide to escape, or sorry, went out I should say, to escape from the Punisher. It meant that he could not go in for an engage to get into position for Mosh. Did not have Bolt, did not have any way of engaging with the ETC there. BlossoM should not get discouraged from this game because this is not, in my opinion, a big outplay from Tempest minus the early game. This is just a draft problem. But take a look at some stats here. You can see that if you compare Lockdown's hero damage, it's 20 higher than Dudu because he can never really get into position to do that damage. Like total hero damage on the side of